Well, hello and welcome to the Pixologic stream. Let's see here. This is season 4, episode 9. So we've been going at this for a while. I just wanted to make sure that I can hear you yet. So if you can hear me on YouTube, it looks like there's somebody there already. And then if you can hear me on Twitch, and also if you can hear me on Facebook and see my screen, that would be great if you could just give me a shout out to say that you can hear me just fine. And also, just want to mention that if you watch this and you like it, definitely drop a like on whatever service you're watching it on, YouTube or Twitch or Facebook. Subscribe to the Pixologic channel, again, on whatever service you're on, or just ZBrush Live. And then you can always leave a comment if you like anything or have any comments. You can just leave them there. And of course, you can ask questions during the stream. And if you are on... If you are not watching this live, then you can leave a question in the comments and somebody from Pixologic will respond to your question. All right, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get going. So, looks like you can hear me well on YouTube. Volume level, everything is good. And then let's wait for a couple of people from the other two services. Looks like we've got quite a few people. Pardon me. So if you could just chime in from Twitch and Facebook, that'd be great. I think Facebook has a little bit of a delay, but you should be hearing me on Twitch. Okay, so all right. Here we go. I do have a ton of brushes, and that's not even the worst of it. So just in my brush menu, I have quite a few, as you can see here when I bring it up. And these are just the ones I've loaded in that I need all the time. But of course, if you go to Lightbox and go to brushes, there's a ton of brushes there too. So... but again, brushes are great and they do have their uses most of the time, but sometimes, when you're using brushes, you mostly use the same ones over and over again. All right, so let me see. I've got a weird thing that happened to my tablet here, so I just need to fix that real quick if you don't mind waiting for a second. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, let me know. Okay, good. So Twitch is saying loud and clear. Awesome. And then we just need one person from Facebook. In the meantime, let me make sure that I can get my pen settings back on track without having to reboot ZBrush, hopefully. So here we go. And mapping and the whole kit and caboodle. All right, let's see. Apply default. And let's see. Okay, looks like everything is fine, so hopefully this will work. Nope. So somehow my my tablet is just locked into my primary screen, so I just need to figure this out real quick. I'll use the old have you tried to unplug it and plug it back in routine with my tablet, see if that works. Most of the time that fixes it, and yep, we're good. Fantastic. All right, so good. Looks like you can hear me on Twitch. Looks like you can hear me on YouTube. That's great. And I guess somebody from Facebook will chime in. I think, yes, there is a bit of a delay, so that should be not a big deal. All right, so what's going on with ZBrush here? All right, here we go. ZBrush is back as well. All right, so I did a little bit of work over the time frame since the last what is going on? I think something is really whacked out with my tablet. Sorry, I'm gonna have to deal with this, so I'm gonna turn the music back on and I'll be back as soon as it's fixed. Sorry about that, folks. right. All right, good news, we're back, but I need to restart ZBrush real quick, and we'll be good to go. I have a gradient bar. What is that for? Just a second, let me turn this music off. No, so this will go ahead and load it in. So you're asking about this gradient down here, Fabio? Is that what your question was, this gradient? Oh, the clickety-clack was my keyboard. Sorry. I've got one of those keyboards that has a louder click. Okay. All right. So this is just for color, and I'll show you why I have that here. But the tablet is still kind of wonky, but let me make sure. I think it's something in the settings went wrong. But I'll get it. I'll get it there. Of course, never happens, and it only happens when I'm doing a stream. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, touch options. Touch should be off. I think that might be the issue. No. All right, so let's go back to this. Right, on-screen control. All right, all this looks good. There we go. Mac loaded back in. Mapping is good. Pen, screen full area. Okay. All right, we're not going to do force proportions. Sorry about that. We're going to see some. What? Where was that? Okay. Let's turn that off. Okay, everything is good. All right, so let's make sure everything is working good over here. I think this is going to have to do, and if it's a problem, we're going to have to restart again. All right, so coming back to your question, Fabio, about this gradient bar over here. So that's when, if I need to change a color, and usually when I'm just dealing with grayscale images, and I think is this, yeah, polyframe is on. Let's turn that off. So if I'm looking at an object here, and I want to change the color, and I think I've got, let me make sure the color, the polypaint is off on all these guys. So you can choose a gray scale up here in the color bar, which is nice, but you can't really be very precise with it. And then if you click over here, you get a little bit bigger range, but you kind of jump into the color, so it's kind of hard to get this cursor kind of over here and figure out a good grayscale. So in the color menu, which is over here, there is this grayscale bar that basically sets up your grayscale. So now if I want to, let's say, pick a darker color here, instead of coming in here and going over there or trying to reach it from here, I can just kind of use this to change the scale of gray to darker or lighter. Right? So that's why that's there. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay, so coming back to this, sorry for the few kind of hiccups we had, but I think we should be good to go now. So I did some work here, and I kind of kit bashed, and I'm not really done with the legs here. I was working on the legs, but then I said I've been doing a lot of modeling, and I kind of want to be done with this project. So I used the legs from one of my other mechs. So here, if you go to my mechs here, this is what's also really nice about 3D concept design, is that you can repurpose things. So I kind of like the way these legs were. So I just basically went in to that file, took out those pieces, and brought them into here. And I'm going to use parts of them, but for the most part, I kind of like the way this kind of tripod leg works. And basically what happens is that when it's running really fast, this part right here, and I think I should have a good pivot on it. Yeah, this part right here will fold up like so. So then it could just kind of move really fast on these two legs. And then when it needs to stop, it does that. And I'm thinking of maybe creating another type of a brace for it for when it's firing its cannons. So so I'll be working a little bit more on the legs today, and then I need to start kind of coloring things out to try and figure out that they're going to be different materials. Now, I think when we left last time, and let me start hiding some of these things so we can see those the parts I want to talk about. So let me just hide the rest of this mech over here. And all the people. Right, so we basically, I was working on this one Gatling gun. I guess these legs are still, where are they? Oh, I haven't put them in the legs group yet. That's fine, I'll do that in a minute. But I was working on these Gatling guns right here. Right, I was just working on one, I just finished it. So it basically looks something like this. But I'm going to be using this for my tutorial videos for the bullet feed that I'm going to be talking about. So I thought I would do some extra work with this. So I'll go ahead and show you guys that too. First, let me hide these guys. Right, so and I think the Gatling gun is, of course the gun itself is in its own group. Which is here. Now this is the old one that I did, which I kind of didn't really think would be as futuristic looking. So I made this newer one, which looks a lot better. But here we go. Looks something like this, right? And so this is, again, I'm going to use this on the Mech. And I'm also going to use it for the bullet feed IMM brush that I'm going to be selling soon. So so in order to kind of show this off on its own without the Mech, I did a thing where I have the ammo drum for it, like so, and then I would say that like maybe this is going to be tested somewhere in a room or something like that. So I made a room for it to be tested in. And again, these pieces here on top, in the back, and on the bottom are just kitbash kits that I bought on ArtStation or Gumroad, one of the two, I don't remember. And I think Oleg Ushanok is one of the people that makes these, but there are a lot of sci-fi panels you can get. Really good ones. I like these ones. They work in this scenario. And of course, why not have a robotic arm also to basically hold that cannon to test it. So I just need to make a little base for the ammo drum, and then the demo is going to be running the bullet feed from the bottom here to the gun itself. So, you know, it's kind of one of these things where you're working on one project and other things come up. A lot of these are kitbash parts. Some of these are CAD parts I downloaded from GrabCAD. So, you know, mixing and matching, you kind of can get the type of results you want. And this I might kind of render out as its own thing at some point, maybe make a big hallway or whatever. But for now, I just kind of did a little bit of work to get it to look like this. All right, so let's see. So yeah, so that's the room that it's in, right? So, and then this is the arm that's going to hold the Gatling gun, and this is in kind of a completely different scenario where it's a testing room. I might have a hangar with the Mech in it, and this is on the side or something like that. I haven't decided yet, but you know, kind of got to be interesting for me to try that out. Okay, so let's go ahead and hide these things. And let's go back to the Mech and bring it back up again. Right, so let's go ahead and bring up the people first, the rear hatch. So the people, basically, I just have a person on the ground, right, and a person standing on the Mech, and the three pilots inside the Mech. This part right here is the rear hatch where they get out from. Behind the Mech, and then let's see, we have the hull top, right? So this is the top of the hull, and I have some different things that I added to this, but I might keep it the way it is because I like this kind of blank type of look. And then if things are shooting at it, you want them to be bouncing off. So you don't want a lot of places where bullets can hang. I'll put some tertiary details on here just to kind of noise it up a bit, and of course purposefully, but then also, excuse me, also I want to keep it as plain as possible because I kind of want a place for the eyes to rest. Oh, we don't need that robot arm in this scenario. We need the hips. So these are the hips, and basically the hips are, I basically use the cloth capabilities or dynamics capabilities in ZBrush to do this, and I'm going to create some borders to this piece. So these are the hips. The top of the mech would swivel around here, right? It would swivel 360 degrees around this axis. And then there are the legs, and these were kind of some of the old legs. And I've got some pistons and stuff that I've added in here, which I haven't really fleshed out yet, but they're there just kind of with that look. And then the rest of the parts I just kind of don't have organized yet, so they're just in down here. So basically these are ammo drums for the Gatling guns. So 2 go on the back over here, and 1 goes inside the bottom part, and I'll need to make a compartment for it as much as of it as is going to be seen. There's going to be a Gatling gun in the front, and 2 over here. These swivel all the way around, so they basically have a range of motion. Let me see if I have the right axes for them. I do. Okay, so these have a range of motion that go all the way around this way and this way, and for it not to collide with the mech itself, this will get lowered down, so we get lower and then rotate around maybe to about here, so it has more room to rotate. Of course, there are limits, but it can shoot things behind it and it can shoot things in front of it. Okay, so let's just reset that back to where it was, and let's see what else. So I think I don't have the bullet feed and the guns on top. So basically, so this is basically the main gun emplacement on here. And of course, these are not fully detailed guns. They're just kind of placeholders, as well as the Gatling guns. Once I get one made and texture it, I can just copy it to its respective position. And then let's see what else is there. So these are just some pieces that I have for the legs. That I still, again, am going to be working on today, and none of these is completed in any way, shape, or form. So I'm going to just be doing a little bit of that work, and then hopefully if I get done tonight, then I will start working on coloring the different options and giving materials to it. So the legs, you can kind of see there's a bunch of them here now, which is kind of an interesting thing. But of course, it's a little bit too noisy. But I have a couple of legs that are just pointing straight forward. And then I have a couple of them kind of tilted this way. I thought it looked better tilted to the side like this. It gave it more of a kind of an interesting stance. Same thing with the top ones. I do have ones that are pointing forward. Let me hide those as well. So basically, this is going to be more or less what... Oops. Didn't mean to show these. I think I've got a couple more parts that I forgot to show. Where are they? I think this is it. Right? No, there should be another part up here. I'll find it. Okay. Maybe this quick save that it loaded didn't have those parts yet, but I'll add them. But no big deal. All right, so this is kind of where we are at. I did do a little bit more work on the radar here. Used extender to make it a bit kind of longer than the clip art part, and then, or not the clip art, but the kitbash part. And I still have to do a little bit of work here to put some stuff in there to make it believable that there is a kind of a mechanism that turns this around. And of course, this whole radar in the back folds backwards and down to kind of get out of the way of it walking, so it's not a windbreak, and also to hide it from fire if it's in the middle of battle. All right, so again, a lot of these things are things that I consider when I am designing my mechs, and so if this thing's going to be in a game or a movie or whatever, it's definitely going to have a story behind it and different things that it does. Um, and yeah, so that's that. And if you have any questions about any of this so far, let me know. Mr. Sanson, thank you very much for that. Yeah, I think it's coming along. These are the stages where I kind of, if things were not done right in the previous stages, you would start to see the issues now. So since I did spend a good amount of time on the primary forms, now that I'm adding secondary forms, things are tending to work better for me. All right, so let me turn on transparency and ghost here, so I can work on this part inside. And so here, now notice that this is a light color, and the inside thing is light as well. So I might want to make my color a little bit darker so I can see through. And so you can see that the slider comes in handy at this type of situation. All right, so I'm going to mask this area here, and then maybe let me solo this part out and make sure the axes are pointing in a good direction. So here I'm going to turn on polyframe and place my gizmo in such a way where I am actually in some sort of the axis of this object. Again, it's not very precise, but it's good enough. And move this over and start positioning things correctly. All right, so there's that. Get it off solo. And so I'm just trying to, I'm going to use this part that I had as a leg before, which I don't really need to use anymore. I do have a copy of it somewhere, but I don't really need to use it as a leg. I'm going to use it as kind of the top part of this thigh or top part of the leg. And here I'm just moving things into place like so. All right. So now it's really dark. I can just do this to make the object lighter and start moving things around. Right, and I don't really, I'm going to go back to this object. I don't really need all this geometry here. So I'm going to go ahead and simplify it a little bit to something just like this, so I'm not moving a lot of points around. Again, if I take care of the primary forms, the rest of it kind of falls together. It looks like I've got good enough stuff for it until this point right here. So I'm going to choose clip curve and do one of these guys and go back to move and start moving this around. By the way, if you guys have questions, ask away. And if you don't have questions, then I'll start asking questions. All right. So here I'm just kind of creating some sort of a cover for this area. Now I've got a challenge that it's going from small to big to small. So I need to figure this out over here. All right, so nobody's saying anything. Everybody's quiet. So for all the folks that are here, I guess I'll ask a question. What is it about the stream that you like? What makes you watch it? Did you just stumble onto it, or is it something that you scheduled to watch? How is this useful to you? All right. I've got 200 answers, looks like. I'm kidding. I've got 0. Nobody's saying anything. So weird to do these streams where I don't have an audience in front of me. It's like the whole Zoom meeting pandemic thing in a podcast or a stream. Oh, here we go. Team Dino Gangster. Okay, can I show you what I'm doing? What do you mean by that? I'm sorry. Can you clarify your question? Okay, so one person really likes mechs and spaceships. Okay, good, and I'm fun. Thank you very much. Somebody learns new stuff. Learn from the best. Okay, thank you for that. All right, if you're just learning ZBrush, just keep at it. That's all I can say. Don't stop. Okay, watching pros, fantastic. Is there a way to turn off the gizmo when you are in move mode? Okay, I don't know what you mean by that. Why would you want to do that? Maybe if you tell me why you need to do that, I can figure something out. All right. Cool. So got some good responses. Thank you for that. Looks like all of you have good reasons. And thank you for watching. I really appreciate people that actually are taking time out of their day to do this, watch me do this. And also, I'd like to thank all the people watching afterwards as well. I go to the different channels and see that a lot of people, a lot more than watch it live, watch it after the fact. And that's always a good thing as well. All right, so now I'm just basically getting this shape here. Maybe if I change the color of the poly group, you can see it better. Just trying to create some sort of shape that will go over here. And again, I'm doing it with the least number of polygons possible. And then I'm just trying to make sure that it works with the silhouette. Maybe it still needs a little bit of clipping here to be a little bit lower. There we go. All right, so that's good. And then here I'm gonna also clip it from this angle. So for that, I'm using clip curve, which is really nice for getting sharp hard surfaces. Also using minimal amount of topology is good for hard surfaces. So that's why I got rid of those edge loops. The more points you have to move around, the more kind of wobbly things look. So now this looks very hard surfacey. Again, I'm always checking out the silhouette, and it looks like the silhouette here looks really thin in this area. So, I mean, you've got two big legs and a big mech on top of it, and it's all kind of hinging on this one little area. So I need to make sure from a kind of a design perspective that that area looks like it can do the thing that it needs to do. And here I'm just rotating around, looking over here at the silhouette and just checking to see if everything is okay. And it mostly is, and I do have a lot of pistons and stuff, but just from a kind of a visible perspective, I think there needs to be more over here. So maybe I can move this part up just a little bit. Okay, again, I'm just looking at the silhouette, and that already kind of made it look better. This is a part that is from Vitaly Bulgarov's IMM, I forget what it's called here. I have it in my brush thing. It's called the Ultraborg, and I think this is from the Pistons brush. So I might as well load it. Okay, and it's basically, oops, nope, that's my scene. It's basically these items here, and I think this one that I have is either this. No, it's not that one. Which one is it? It's this one right here. Nope, it's one of them. I think it's either this one or it is this one. I'm pretty sure it's this one. All right, so that's over here, and I'll turn transparency on so you can see it. All right, so there it is. Now that I basically have this over here, I don't have that issue anymore. And also, these cylinders are kind of, you know, they need to go somewhere, but I haven't decided where yet. So I'm just going to put them on the ground so they don't interfere with anything. So that silhouette over here, this area looks a lot more steady with just that piece added over there. But then I got to figure out how to kind of put this casing around it. Okay, so there is a lot of questions. To paint a mask. Okay, so you want, all right, I see what you're trying to do. Okay, so let me just go to something else here. I'll just go to these pieces over here and solo this out. So what you're trying to do is you're in move mode like this, and you're trying to mask a certain part, and when you click, you get this kind of thing happening. Is that what your question is? So if you want to mask, right? If you want to mask certain pieces, move mode allows you to do a move from a certain point. So if you hold Control down and you start moving in a certain direction, right? You will mask in that direction, right? That's a masking methodology. But if you don't want to do that, if you just want to mask something and you want to get rid of it, just be in move mode, like with the move brush or any other brush really, and then maybe use the mask lasso, and then you can just kind of choose what you want to mask like this, right? And then there's no gizmo or anything else getting in the way. Hopefully that answered your question. Oh, and in Smart Transpose, so you're not even using this gizmo, you're using the transpose line. So you are using, I have it down here, I think. Let's turn that off. So you're using this transpose line. Is this the one? Is this what you're using? You're using this, right? Or are you using the other gizmo? This one. Okay. Okay. Let's see. At Restream Bot Gradient Bar. I don't know what that is. I'm looking at my. Are you talking about the thing that's on top? This thing right here. Is that what you're talking about? I'm not sure. In the brush palette. Okay, I'm still kind of confused as to what you mean. All right, did this? I'm kind of. Can you just retype your question entirely? So you're trying to mask a certain part of the your model, but you don't want the transpose line to be there. Is that what you want? I'm not sure. If you want, you can. If you want to kind of explain it more, or maybe do a quick video or something like that, and email it to me. I should mention that here. If anybody needs to get a hold of me, just go to my website, Kermaco, KERMACO.com, and then here on top, I've got a bar with all the different things you can do. So if you want to follow my Instagram, that's over here. And if you want to send me an email, there's an envelope right there. And Instagram is where I post my latest stuff. So, you know, you can see I've posted some pictures of the work in progress on this mech. So, yeah, send me an email with a video or something like that, and I will make sure to answer your question. But I think I'm kind of, you know, I think what you're trying to do is do a smart transpose, you know, I think maybe you're trying to do it with the transpose line. I'm not 100% sure. So one of these days, the streaming technology will be more like I can just bring you up, your screen up or something like that, and you can ask live. But we don't have that yet, so we have to do the best we can with what we got. All right, so here we go. We're back over here, and let's see. Let me see. Somebody else has a long thing that they wrote. You like watching the Pixologic streams? Okay, good. Okay, yep, yeah. You like watching Shane and Tomas's streams? They're good. Yeah, definitely. Watching these streams is how you get better. I mean, that's how I got better. I watched a lot of people do their work. You pick up something from one person and something else from somebody else, and then before you know it, you have your own kind of style of doing things. And yeah, a lot of amazing ZBrush artists do streams, and it's a good idea to watch them when you can. Okay, so the last thing we did was we lifted this thing up to here, which is fine, but then we need to accommodate for it going into something. So this piece that we worked on, maybe we can move it up. Let me try and do this. Actually, I'm just going to use this to move it up, see if that works. Do something like that. And it works from here, but let's see if it works from the back as well. It seems to be doing okay. Need to make some adjustments here, but other than that, I think this will do it. Okay, so now we've got that piece going over here, looking at the silhouette again. Yep, this silhouette looks a lot better now. I'm going to try lifting this up just a little bit more to see if that's going to add anything to it. And if not, we're good with what we've got. It actually did. That looks good. So we're going to, again, do more of this work over here, see if we can make that work. Now these are getting awfully close to each other, so I don't like that. I'm going to try and get as much up here, but not too much. All right. So these things are the things that take a little bit more time when you're doing 3D concept design, because you're accommodating for one thing and then you're having to adjust some other things to go along with it. And that might turn some people off because they want to work a lot faster than this. But in the end, though, you get something that is more usable again and again and again. It really bothers me how disposable things are in movies nowadays. Like if you look at some of the concepts for things that are in movies, they don't have as much of a long leg as some of the things that were in previous movies. Like, I'll give you an example of, like, let's say an X-wing, right? Very classic shape, and it's one of those things where they did a good design on it from every angle, and it works, and it's been alive, and it'll be in a lot of movies for a long time. But if you look at some of the newer spaceships and things like that, they're very rushed on a very tight schedule, and sometimes they're not even, the 3D model is just a very kind of rudimentary model that they build of it. It might find itself in the art book. It might get some loving care there, but I definitely think that if something is designed more with more thought given to it, then the toys will be more fun to play with, and they'll have longer kind of a longer life in movies and sequels and all that good stuff. All right, so here I'm just kind of trying to get this to work. Again, I'm working with very, very minimal geometry. I might even, let me see, I might even go even less than this. I might even get rid of these two over here. And looks like there's plenty of stuff here that might not be useful. So here I'm just using the stitch point tool in ZModeler just to reduce the number of points I have to deal with, so that I can get an easier and faster shape to go in that one little area. All right, so and now it's just a very simple cube, but I do need this span over here, so I'm always kind of reducing things back down just so I can get, and now it looks even more hard surfacey, which is kind of nice. And then I'll just add stuff to it when I see fit. So this could go this way. And again, I'm evaluating this from every angle all the time. All right. Yeah, whenever, I try to watch the other streams when I can, and every time I do, I pick something up. And you might want to watch the streams of the kind of styles that you like. So if you like stylistic characters and stuff like that, you can watch those streams. If you like anime stuff, there's streams that are more like that, and jewelry and whatever. And for those of you that those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, if you go to ZBrush Live. I should have a link to this, quicker link to this. If you go to ZBrush Live and you go to presenters, you can see, oh, here I am presenting. But if you go to presenters on here, come on, you can see the names of all the different folks on here, and there's a little video, and you can choose, if you know who they are, you can choose to watch their streams. And if you go to YouTube, right, you can kind of scroll down and look at the style. So, for example, here's kind of really interesting Captain Invincible, I think he's called, or whatever. And there's just a bunch of different ones. So if you like this type of stuff, then you can sculpt this kind of stuff and watch that stream. Here's some anime kind of characters. So horror characters, all sorts of stuff. So I highly recommend you guys catch up on your favorite artists in here. And yeah, learn from their styles. Okay, so this is looking good. I'm really liking that silhouette. So that part is okay there. And the rest of the leg parts look like they work okay. The only thing that's kind of weird and sticking out is this cylinder right here, which I don't really need, but it's part of other cylinders, or is it just on its own? It's on its own. All right, so I can just get rid of that part, which is in here. Right there, and I don't need that anymore, so just delete it. All right, and then there are these cylinders as well, and let me see where those go. All right, those are unneeded either. They don't need those ones either, so they're gone as well. That part was part of the leg. I just repurposed it over here, and it seems like it works. I just need to figure out a way to sell this kind of joint over here better, because right now it looks like this area where these pieces are joining doesn't seem to be working too well. And also this piece right here is covering up a kind of a nice feature, which is this over here. So I need to make this work as well. So let me see if I can do this to it and rotate it this way, move it over like so. There we go. All right, that looks good over there. Maybe press it in. I don't want to press it in too much, but I want it to look like it's kind of part of this whole fixture over here. So that looks like it works. I'm leaving a little bit of a gap area over here, and I don't know what to do with that. But so since this is from a previous mech, I think the parts are all together. And I can do, well, I'll do it. Why not? I'm going to do a split to similar parts. Let me do a quick save before then, read some of the questions, and we'll take a swig of tea. Okay, so back to that question with the, okay, choose the smart transpose. Okay. So I've got a lot of parts here. This is going to take a little bit of time to save up, but that's not a big deal. This would be a good time to ask some questions. Let's see. All right, so what do you guys, what do you all sculpt? What do you use ZBrush for? Are you working in the industry, or are you, do you use other tools and ZBrush is kind of a new thing for you, or have you been a ZBrush user for a long time? What is your ZBrush game, I guess is the question. Okay, so I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce your name, but you're saying that do I use an animalistic approach? So here, let me do the split to parts, similar parts here real quick. Always yes. Okay, and the reason why I did a quick save before this is I just want to make sure that this happened okay. And there would be a point I could go to before this. So the question was, did I use animalistic parts to do this? And the answer is yes. So if you go to the first episode of this series, episode 1, you will notice that I did use, I went to project here and went to this thing called ZZoo, which has a whole bunch of different animals in here, right? So you can, if you want to build an animalistic mech, you can choose from any of these armatures here, which are really a good place to start. And then you can develop it into a mech or something else. The one I used was the Velociraptor, which is, where is it? It was this one. So you can see here there's a little bit of similarity in the way these legs are to the legs of my mech. So definitely use an animalistic approach. And since this is kind of more of a walks on kind of a hind leg, it's referred to chicken walk or something like that, or an ostrich walk. Since it is that way, then it is based on some animal that basically walks like this. All right. So Scorpion Core Universe, you're trying to create a CGI cartoon for your channel. I'm stuck on a problem. All right. Well, being stuck on problems is not always a bad thing. That's how you get better. And it seems like a lot of what we do is problem solving. I think I talked about that in a previous stream. But a lot of what we do is problem solve. So yeah, you're always kind of figuring out how to solve problems. And the best artists, especially in the industry, especially people who are working, they are more problem solvers. It's kind of what design is, really, problem solving. So hopefully you can figure it out. And if there's any way I can answer a question that could help, by all means, please ask. All right, so now I'm just kind of figuring out this part. I noticed that it was really, when I looked at it from the side, I noticed that that part was really, the way it was before, like this, was really kind of made this part look really thick. So now I need to kind of get it back to some sort of a better shape. All right. Now I would simplify this a bit more, but okay, is this from another piece? Oh, no, it's masked, that's fine. All right, so there's this piece in here. And notice this thing has thickness, so it's going to cause me issues. So what I'm going to do is, no, I think I'll be fine. It's not that much. Just adds this a little bit over here, which I can use. And then let's bring these pieces in. Like so. So notice here I'm using sculpting tools, like I'm using smooth and all the other kind of the move tool or move brush, sorry, not tool. I'm using the move brush and smooth brush, but I'm working on hard surface stuff, and that's because it's low poly, so it does look very hard surface. And this is a kind of a nice way to model hard surface pieces. All right. Oh well. Yeah, great. I'm glad to do that. All right. So every time I do one of these, somebody says, "Well, I thought ZBrush was not good for hard surface." I've actually heard like industry veterans say that, I mean, ZBrush is used for organics so much, and it does it so well that I think it's been pigeonholed as a tool for organic sculpting. But I beg to differ. I think some of the newer versions with some of the new features make it very, very good for doing hard surface. And also, I'm doing concept design here, so I'm iterating a lot. I'm making changes to things all the time, and any other tool usually doesn't make that possible. So usually the way the pipeline works, or most pipelines work, in old studios and old game companies with pipelines that have been designed maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. In those pipelines, you know, the concept designer does a speed paint or a painting or whatever, or photo bash of something, and then that goes to the modeling department, which tries to make sense of it and model it, and then goes to all the different sections. So in that machine, ZBrush is used by modelers to do organic things. Sometimes, you know, if they can get it, they get artists that are good at ZBrush, and these artists will do 3D concepts with ZBrush. But I'm noticing that studios are catching up. Some are there, some have been there for a while, and some are still in the old world of ZBrush is a sculpting tool for organic shapes. All right, so again, just working on this piece right here, and that's kind of looking a little bit better. And the back looks like it's pretty good. You can see here that that really simple geometry looks like it belongs there. So all I need to do is just go to Dynamic Subdiv for that. Oops, wrong piece. This one. Go to Dynamic Subdiv on it, and of course that's not what I want. So let's go ahead and give it a Q grid of maybe 1. Or 2, and then let's choose a coverage like that, and that piece looks like now it has kind of a smoother shape to it, and of course I can always go in and add more to it later. Right now it looks really simple, but again, you have to kind of realize how visible that's going to be and what I need to do to it. But this piece here is going to be critical, because when this thing is running, it's going to have to kind of clear some of the areas that are around it. I think maybe I'll take this one down just a smidge there. Okay. All right. Do I use dynamic subdiv with crease all the time? I use it all the time. Yeah. Do I keep the subtools disconnected? Of course. Yeah. I mean, you know, there's no sense in having all this be connected for any reason. I mean, the good thing is that if it's disconnected, you can do things like, you know, if I want to rotate that top part, see how it rotates, I can always go to things like transpose, turn everything on. So now basically I'm transposing everything. And for this, I'm going to turn the people off for now. And so now I can just select what I want to move. Right, so now it has masked all that part. I kind of want to invert that actually. So I'm going to do the exact same thing, but after I do the selection, I'm going to hold Alt down so the box is red. And let me just show everything, do this over. Right, so now if I want to rotate that top part, I can just move the axis like this, and now I can rotate that top part around, right? Now, if this was connected, that would not be easy to do. So now you can see I can move that top part around. Similarly, with all the different components here, I can choose to move them independently. I do combine certain things if they need to be combined, but most of the time I keep them separate, because that way I can move them like I did here. Or I can also, you know, do texturing and materials separately, which gives it a kind of a cooler look. So hopefully that answers your question. Driver fiction B. All right. Okay, these things are still kind of there, and I'm going to hide them because I don't need to see them right now. Okay. All right, so let's kind of start working more on this part over here. So that looks good like that. All right, I'm just gonna choose it. And what if this thing was, it's local symmetry on, no, a little bit wider like this? Would that work better? Looks like it would. Maybe not that much. Maybe to about there. All right, so that's good, but it's covering up a lot of stuff that I don't want covered up, so I might need to add a few more pieces over here. All right, so how would this model look in Houdini? Well, I think I don't, I don't use Houdini, so I should kind of preface it with that. And I don't know if Houdini can take high resolution models. I think it can. It can't. I think it's like Maya, where you have a certain polygon count that it would need to be under. So what you would need to do is you might need to decimate some of the pieces, or you might need to, and I do have some of them in different resolutions. So you can, let me do this real quick. I do have them in several resolutions. So you can, like this one, for example, it might be too many polygons to go into Houdini, but I can, I can turn dynamic off, and this is a lot less polygons. And if I'm going to send it into Keyshot, I'll probably just go to dynamic and apply it, because Keyshot can take a lot of polygons. But programs like Houdini and Maya do have limitations. And so for that, what you need to do is you need to have kind of lower subdivision level versions of the model, and then generate displacement maps or normal maps, and then that will bring out some of the detail. All right, so what's going on here? Oh, all right, I need to do the delete hidden first. Okay, so let me just select this, delete hidden, and then go back to it. But you should be able to bring something like, I mean, they'd bring all sorts of stuff into Houdini, so I don't see why this wouldn't go into Houdini. It might need a little bit of extra work, and if I'm working on a project at a client, I usually work with the Houdini people to figure out what it is that they need. Recently, I did an ad. Well, when I say recently, before the lockdown, excuse me, I did an ad for Toyota with a company called Electronic Theater, Electric Theater, and with them, I knew that their stuff was going to go into Houdini. So I was in constant communications with the Houdini people as to what they needed from me, and made the changes according to that. So I had a very low poly version of the model that I made, as well as high poly versions as well. I believe that asks your model. Okay, so this will work with 3D print. You're not going to just basically 3D print this as one piece, obviously. What you're going to do is basically section it off. So if I were to 3D print this, for example, I'd print the legs separately, and I'd print this part separately, the top part separately, the gun separately, and then just attach everything together. And if you do it that way, you can maintain a lot of the details. I mean, I've got... I'll show you guys this thing. So this is a 3D print of one of the spheres that I have, the spheres of influence. It's kind of it had some issues with the print, but let me get it in front of the camera here. But you can see I got like all these little intricate details, and it came out fine. And I don't really have, my 3D printer is a few years old, and I'm sure they're better, more minute versions now. And 3D printing is its own thing. I mean, I did get a 3D printer, which I'm going to get rid of soon. And I do understand what needs to happen, but that seems to be a job on its own. And I kind of like doing the design stuff. So I'm going to let somebody else do that part. But I know that if I do send it to a certain place, that they can get all these details, and they will look pretty good. Okay, so good question. My ArtStation. So if you go to Kermaco.com, so Kermaco.com, you can see up here that I've got links to my ArtStation and my Gumroad. So if you just click on ArtStation, it will take you to my ArtStation, which is right here, right? So this is my ArtStation, which is very old. I need to update it, but I'm also going to move my website to ArtStation, so that's definitely a project in the books. It just It's just a matter of time until I get everything transferred over. So again, just go to my website and then click on ArtStation. But if you just want to go to ArtStation, it's artstation.com, /Kermaco. All right. I should also mention that I've got a Gumroad, and on my Gumroad right now I've got just 3 things. 2 are free. I've got this primitives brush. You can download the one that has 17 pieces, and that's free. And you can also download my user interface colors if you like that. You can download it. But I also have the primitives brush with a bigger set of 33 brushes, which I'm selling for $2.50. So you can pick that up if you need some of the extra parts that are in here. But the basic one is free. You can just pick it up just from my Gumroad. And again, that link is here too on Kermaco.com, and then just Gumroad is here right next to my ArtStation. I do have a CG Society as well, which I don't know if people are using it as much as they used to, but it used to have a lot of traffic on it back in the day that I had my stuff on there. But eventually I'm just going to move to ArtStation. My website's going to be there. My ArtStation stuff's going to be there. And maybe just Instagram. I'm trying to wean off of all these other services because it just gets to be a little bit overwhelming. Okay. So hopefully driver fiction, that worked for you. So now I'll go back into here. Right. So we're still kind of processing this one piece here that seems to be a bit stubborn, but it's getting there. All right, so that looks good. So basically, you know, it's got a really harsh angle, and I guess let me mirror it over to the other side, not locally. And once it's mirrored over to the other side, you can kind of tell that it's working. Turn symmetry on for this area, and then maybe I'll put another piece or something else over here to kind of make this work. I'm just going to use that same piece, so I'm just going to hold Control down and drag a copy of it over, resize it. It's kind of hiding that cool piston, but maybe I can use them together somehow. But I do need something to kind of fill up that area. And as here, all I'm doing is just repurposing that exact same box just by control dragging it. And if I want to separate it out, which I should do, I'm going to split mask points. So that's its own piece, and this is its own piece right here. And maybe turn on transparency. And try to move it so I can see that part that's underneath. All right, turned off transparency. Okay, so this is looking a little bit better. I can barely see it. All right, so that's okay like that. But in the back, I need to fix it so it's not crashing with this cloth part. So this is the kind of freedom that I really enjoy here, that I don't get in other programs. Just this kind of freedom to just move things around and create kind of these types of object collages, I guess, or kitbashes, whatever you want to call it, to get to an interesting shape. And again, you know, none of this is physics, none of this is CAD, none of this is, I mean, it could be manufactured if it was going to be in a movie or whatever, but I don't think it's going to be functional. And if it was going to be functional, then engineers would have to go in and kind of make things make sense. But it's kind of like architecture and civil engineering, two different things. All right, so that's working. So I really kind of like the way the legs are shaping up. And one problem that I need to solve, again, is this area right here, which from this angle does not look very bad, but from this angle looks like something needs to be done to it. Now, a lot of these parts here are high-res parts, so I can't be moving them around. Like if I do this one, for example, notice here, it kind of warps out. So that's not going to work out. So I need to, I can't just move those around and have the geometry conform just because they are high-res models that have been baked earlier. And if I need to make new ones, I can. But they've been pre-Booleaned, or I don't know if they're alphas or Booleans, but basically that's kind of the shape that they have. All right, so I need to figure out to put something over here. So I'm going to use the same trick. What part am I on? Oh, not that one. Let's see. I'm going to repurpose something that I already have to see. I'll repurpose this whole big thing right here. Okay, so I'm just going to, let me see this thing by itself. Yeah, it's got these two layers, so this is kind of going to be problematic because it'll cross over itself. So I'll go back to this part right here that I used before and drag off another copy. Like so. And I know this is low res, so I can very easily, and there's a little symmetry on, nope. So let's just move this into place over here. And see if we can create some sort of interesting shape, and then maybe I'll bring a kitbash part or something like that to replace it. But for now, I just want to see if something is over here, it would occupy some sort of a volume that would. That's working. That's working too. So it definitely works from the front. Let's see, does it work from the side? That works. How about the top? Nope. Needs to be over there, like so. I'm just basically creating some sort of a piece in here that would kind of make this joint look like it does work. So that's kind of okay, more or less. All right, so let's go find a kitbash part. Wait. Let's find a kitbash part that could do that. Yeah, I mix Boolean cuts with Z-modeler parts. So the Boolean cuts, so if you look at this thing right here, right, this is done with my brush. And I'll show you how to do that. It's pretty neat. So this kind of feature where there's kind of a cutout and then there's a hole, right? So I'll just go to a basic cube 3D here. Yep, what happened there? Oh, here we go. Let me go ahead and do a couple of things to this, like make it a 3D object. Okay, that's good. And then if I want to use one of my kitbash parts for it, I'll just go and load my kitbash brush. And let's just choose one of this cube 4 for it. Right there, let's focus in on it. Okay, so let's say I've got this shape, and I need to cut out that shape out of it. So in my brush, and this is only in the Pro version, I should mention, because this isn't something everybody wants to use. It's this piece right here. Pardon me for a second. Some water. So it's a screw inlet piece, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and append a insert a polymesh 3D to this, and excuse me for a second. And what I'm going to do is for this piece, I'm just in move mode. If I just click on any of these pieces, it replaces it with it. So here it is, right? So this is the piece right here, right? So this is the screw inlet piece. And what I'm going to do, I guess I can turn off perspective, is move this way. And so this part is going into the cube, right? So here, you know, if I turn transparency on, you can see it better. This part is actually going inside of that cube, but you need to leave a little bit of it out. And depending on how deep you want it to be, you can mask part of it. So I'm going to mask. Let me go back to the normal mask pen. I'm going to mask this part. And then if you want this to be deeper, you can make it deeper like this by just extending this piece. right? So let's just push the whole thing in like that, right? So the cube is the positive part, and this is basically the cut in. I'm just centering it. Turn transparency off here, right? So this would be an additive part, and this would be a subtractive part. And when you turn live Boolean on, you can see that it basically creates that feature, right? Now the good news is that this is a sub D part, so if I press D, you can automatically see that I get some very nice clean edges around there, right? And if I want to have kind of a bevel on the side over here, that's easy to do as well. You just go to that piece and solo it out, right? So here, I'm going to do a couple of things to make this work better. One is I'm just going to go into ZModeler real quick and insert a couple of edge loops, one here and one here, like that. Okay, so that's going to make it a little bit better. And then maybe let's put one in the middle just for good measure. And then what I want to do here is I want to create that lip. So let me go back to unsolo it. And let me turn my Boolean on for a second and highlight all this stuff. I think I need transparency and ghost back on. So I'm masking all this part right here, but what I want to do is I want to bring all this down. Oh, what's going on? I forgot to mask it. Okay, and then bring this down to here, like so. And then mask this. And then just go to here, and you can either use the scale, scale it up like that. So you basically are creating that little bit of a bevel over there, like so. And now if you go back to live Boolean and also turn off polyframe, transparency, hello, let's go back to here. And where did, oh, turn visibility. So now you can see I've created this little bit of bevel over here. And of course you can add geometry to create a better bevel. Oops. And if you're on this object, what did happen to it now? Oh, there it is. And let's see, what am I not doing? Okay, it's visible. Here's this object, here's that object. F. Where did it go? Did it become too small, or did I must have done some? Okay, I think I did something to the cube. Okay, yeah, the size changed. So the cube was huge. Here we go. I undid the cube inadvertently, so that's what happened. So there's that, and if I press D to go to dynamic subdiv, you can see I can get some really nice beveled edges on the object, and it looks pretty clean, like so. All right, so that's that part in my brush, and it's called the screw inlet, and it's pretty useful for things like that. All right, let's get back to our Mech. Let's see, it's a bunch of questions here. So yeah, I do. So like I said, I do mix Boolean and kitbash and ZModeler, and use all the tools that are available to me in ZBrush. Yeah, that's correct. And then how do I get sleek and even surfaces? I think I talked about it already. It's just, you know, if I want to get this sleek surface, I basically use very little, you know, I'll go to that part. So if I just go to this part right here, solo it. So the way I'm getting these sleek parts is that if you look at the topology, this is very little polygons. I mean, it's just very few. And I just need to make sure that I get them as coplanar as I can. I should split this to... let me mask this, split mask points, and go to those points over here. So as you can see here, these are pretty low poly, right? So you definitely don't get a lot of wobbliness. Now, if I subdivided this a few times and then start moving these points around, then it would not look as sleek. So Keep your geometry low for as long as you can, and then once you get the shape you want, then you can add detail if you want to. Okay. Okay. How do you? All right. It says how fast. Am I satisfied with the speed of my workflow? Yeah, I think it's pretty. It goes at the speed of my thoughts. So if I was faster, would I get better results? I don't think so. But if I'm in production and I have deadlines, then I do a lot of shortcuts. I don't have that issue with the stream because this is stuff I'm doing for my own personal work, and I don't really care about how long it takes. I kind of started out these streams wanting to finish them with 8 episodes, but I'd rather have something I really like than have to rush because I do that for work anyway. And so here I basically just work at the pace I work at. Sometimes I'm slow, sometimes I'm fast, but I think overall, if you consider the amount of hours I've spent on this thing, I'm pretty satisfied with the speed. All right. What is start sign mean in subtool? Oh, you're talking about this thing right here. Let me go back to that cube shape that I had. No, where was it? Thing I was working on. All right. So this start over here, that's what you're asking. So if you're going to do a Boolean object, so here, let's say I'm going to make a copy of this. Right, and let's say I'm going to do one that has 2 of these guys. So I'm going to select that, duplicate it twice. Now I've got one object. So I've got one cube here. And I'm going to move these to the side. So I'm going to hide all these guys. W, do that. Move everybody over. Like so. And then there are these other ones over here. And what I want to do is I want to do another one of these cubes, but it's going to have 2 of these things. So I'm going to have one over here. Oops. Turn that off. I'm going to have one over here like this. And then I'm going to have another one. I don't know how. All right, let me undo this guy. All right. And I'm going to have another one that's going to be over here. All right, I think this is the one that was over here. It doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm going to have one over here, right? So now I have a start of the Boolean. The start means when I click on this little arrow, it says start. So that means the Boolean starts here, and the first object is additive. That's what that means. And then the second one is subtractive. So it's this kind of circle subtracting from another. And then I'm going to start another Boolean. So I'm starting this one now. And then both of these are going to be subtractive, right? And now that I have that, I can turn off polyframe. Right, so here we've got this one, and I've got a subtractive one. Sorry about that. So, and then I've got this other part. So let me just... I'm not on solo. Where's this cube? Okay, so I inadvertently moved this back over here. So here's the one with the 1, and then here's the one with the 2, right? So here I've started another Boolean operation, and then, that's what the start means. It means start a Boolean operation, and then whatever's underneath it will basically do what the Boolean is. And here, maybe this one's going to be an intersection, which basically just gives me this part, which doesn't really make sense. But yeah, so that basically means I'm starting a new Boolean. So maybe this one has the pieces this way and this way, right? So just the start means you start a new Boolean. By the way, with Booleans, what I usually do is I put them in a folder, and I'll show you why that's a good idea. So let's say this is going to be the start of one. So I just basically go in and put it in a folder. Let me make these down to maybe 8. New folder. Right here, and call it, let's say, bool1. Right, so then I put everything in that folder. And the reason why I do that is because if I Boolean this now, so I can just go to this little gear and say Boolean this folder, what it will do is it will keep these pieces, which is something I want to do, right? But it will also give me the part as its own subtool in my project, right? So usually if you Boolean things, so if you want to accept a Boolean, it usually gives it to you as a separate tool. But if you want it to be inside of your tool that you're working on, this is a good way to do it. And also you'll have the parts, so if you need to change certain things, you can do that after the fact. Right, so kind of a bit of a tangent there, but let's go back to working on the Mech. All right, let's see. All right, so hopefully that answered that question. Okay, so there's certain, okay, so creasing, let's talk about that. Let's jump back into here and let's talk about creasing. So here is this cube right here. Let me hide everybody else. Turn off Boolean. So let's say I've got this, let's work on this cube instead. All right, so I've got this cube right here. And let me do a couple of things here. W, first of all, let's put the pivot in the center, and let's put this in the center of the world. All right, so this cube right here, if I go to dynamic subdiv, it turns into this, right? Which is not really what I want. So there's two ways I can get soft edges. One is I can go into dynamic subdiv, turn dynamic subdiv on, and then add QGrid. And if you want to see what QGrid does, Paul did an Ask ZBrush that explains it really well. So I'm going to choose a QGrid of, let's say, 1, and then a coverage of how much I want to cover it. And that basically will give me softer edges. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. And also, by the way, I should mention that you could have that be a bevel or a chamfer. So bevel is more straight, chamfer is kind of smoother. And you can choose how much you want that smoothness to be. So notice here that I can change up the coverage, but if I increase the QGrid, I get more of a kind of a really nice kind of corner edge here. And this is the difference between chamfer. Chamfer gives you kind of more of a rounded edge. So here, if I want a chamfer, don't want a bevel, well, maybe I want both, and then I can increase the coverage, and I can get these really nice soft corners. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it, so that's, again, something you can turn on and off with dynamic subdiv. Another way of doing it is you just go in and let me go to polyframe here. And so this basically, this cube has 4 subdivisions. So I'm going to actually reduce, actually I don't need to reduce it. And so what I can do here is just go into ZModeler. There's different ways of doing this. I'm just going to do it in ZModeler and go to crease. And I'm going to crease some edges. So I'm going to crease that edge. And you can, I don't know if you can see it, but let me make this lighter. Oops, other way. But it kind of puts a dotted line around it. So these edges are now creased. So when I go to dynamic subdiv, let's turn QGrid off this time. All right, so you can see here that my creased edges, and I can do this live so you guys can see it. So my creased edges here, you can see how they become sharper, right? So if I do crease edge loop partial, and I just have to get it on there. So now I'm basically getting that. Okay, and now I'm getting this, and I'm getting this. Right, so now what I have, to get this right on that edge, it's a bit tricky, but not impossible. Okay, so now I've got these creased edges, right? And if I want these edges to be beveled now, I just go under geometry and crease. Under crease, just choose a bevel width, and now I'm beveling that. And you can use resolution, like how many spans you want, right? And let me turn polyframe off. Right, you can choose how many spans you want. You can choose the bevel resolution. So here I'm just going to have a, and the more spans you have, of course, the better, you know, the kind of the sharper your bevel will be. And yeah, so that's another way to kind of get soft edges. And then I can dynamic subdiv this guy and get even softer edges there, right? So here we go. Here's it kind of with more of a dynamic subdiv. Or actually, I think I just added a subdivision. I'm going to delete higher here and just turn dynamic subdiv on and basically add a few more smooth subdivision levels, maybe 1 and a flat one. So you can see you can get all sorts of interesting kind of variations on how you want that beveled edge to look. So here, if I turn QGrid on and reduce the coverage, let's say QGrid of 1, and so I can now get something like this, right? So all these tools are available, and you can choose any one of them to get the different types of shapes that you want. So when do I use each one? And it all depends on what I'm working on, right? It all depends on the parts that I'm working on. Sometimes I use them all the time. Sometimes I use the crease function, and sometimes I use dynamic subdiv. Okay, so good question. Do I think ZModeler has all what it needs to do what others can do? I can say that for what I do, ZModeler does 80 to 90% of what I need to do. Before, I used to have to jump to Maya all the time and use GoZ or jump into Maya to do some things. But lately, I've been doing that less and less and less. So does it have what it needs 100%? Not yet, but it's getting better with every release. Extrude edges was the new thing that they added, which basically was a big reason why I used to jump into Maya, and I don't need to do that. I can use that in here. However, there are some things that it's still, Maya does better. So, or not does better, but does. So certain topological changes that I need to do, I might need to go into Maya to do. But for the most part, I think ZModeler does what I need it to do. As far as Blender is concerned, it always mentioned, definitely a fan favorite, and it should be, because I think it's a really ambitious project, and it's been people are doing some amazing things with it, and it's finding its own kind of niche in what it does. But box cutter is kind of nice in Blender, and it's one of those things where I'm learning it little bit by little bit every week. So hopefully one of these days it will be in my workflow as much as I would like it to. But right now my workflow is about 90% ZBrush and Keyshot, and maybe about 10 or 15% depending on the project. I use Maya. And again, if I can replace Maya with Blender, I will. But I spent the money and time to learn Maya, so it's probably going to be my go-to for a while. Yeah, but I haven't upgraded Maya. I haven't gone. I'm on 2019, and that's the last version that I had purchased the license for before they went to the subscription model. And with the subscription model, their pricing went up, so I kind of 2019 does what I need it to do, and until they come up with something where I absolutely need that feature, I'm going to stay on 2019. All right, other questions. Oh man, there's a ton of them. Okay, how much time do I spend to gather reference for production? So it all depends, right? Sometimes they give me the reference. Sometimes they give me CAD models. So if I'm working in production, I'm probably working with a team of people, right? So I probably at some point get some sort of reference from them. And if I don't, I do my own research. And I guess I should mention that here too, is that if you go to the Gnomon workshop, so the Gnomon workshop, if you're not familiar with this, has some of the most amazing tutorials from industry experts. And if you go by instructor, I'm in there. I've got 2 titles with them, working on a 3rd one, hopefully soon. But if you just go here by browse by instructor under the K, you can find me. And then I have a whole tutorial on designing a piloted combat mech. Excuse me. So this is my this entire video is my process from start to finish. And the first video here is researching the base specifications. So this first video is my entire process of how I gather reference. and it's pretty much in depth. So it talks about websites that I go to gather my reference. It talks about books that I have, or types of books that I read for reference, and also talks about how long it takes. But reference gathering shouldn't take you a very long time. If it's a topic that you work on a lot, and mechs are something that I work on a lot, I usually have a very big library of images that I already can start from. So my reference gathering shouldn't take me more than half a day, depending on the project. Sometimes it takes longer, sometimes it doesn't take as long. So, again, depends on the project. If it's something really critical, then I will ask for a few days to do reference gathering. And if it's something that's got a tighter deadline, then I will try to get the reference a lot faster than that. Hopefully that answers that question. How much topology do I use when I Boolean? That's a really good question, and that's something I'll talk about in detail too. Okay, flowers, great. Wow. All right. Well, I don't think Maya's going anywhere for a while. I should mention that. Okay, so a lot of studios use Maya. They've got workflows that they've paid a lot of money to incorporate Maya into. I think it is very attractive to studios to replace Maya with something that's free, but Blender, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if Blender has the same support structure that Maya does. So I think Autodesk basically, sells studios a lot of support so that if they're having issues or need something done during a production, that Autodesk can jump in and help. So I think Blender, has a really great community online, but nobody's neck is in the noose, so to speak, if anything goes wrong. So I think that's why Maya will be around for a long time. So will 3ds Max. But the good news is that if you are just starting out, you can start out with a free tool like Blender, understand the concepts, and then it'll be easier for you to jump from one tool to the next. But eventually, I think there'll be, a lot of Blender used in production as well. Free is always a good thing. I'll come to your Boolean question in a minute. Okay, all right. So let's talk about Booleans and topology. So here, let's go back to this guy right here. And I'm going to back this thing back up to when it was just a cube, like so. Okay. All right. So here, if I'm Booleaning, right, I look at both parts. So here, am I on solo? No. Let's show these two parts. So here I've got these two parts, and I've got this cube. I'm going to move these two parts in, like so. All right, so you can see everything here is low poly, right? So if I do a quick BPR of everything here, everything is low poly. Even, if these are not dynamic subdived, right? Everything is low poly. So if I do a Boolean now, and I will do it, delete this one, and just generate a Boolean from this. Now, if I look at the Boolean, of course, it's going to have a lot of these kind of funky triangles that it creates, right? I mean, that's part of the pain of Booleans, is that you end up with geometry like this, okay? But everything is low poly, right? Everything is the same kind of poly count. So the thing to do if you want to get good Booleans is to make sure that you've got topology that's as similar to each other as possible. Because if you don't, so let me tell you why that's the case. So here, let's say I dynamic subdiv this and I dynamic subdiv that. Well, actually, let me just do one of them. Right, so with this dynamic subdiv that I did, I'm going to go ahead and apply that. So I'm just going to go ahead and say apply that dynamic subdiv. So now you can see that this is a lot more polygons than this. So now if I do that Boolean again, the new part, where is, okay, let me show everything, right, there it is. And I don't want this guy, but I want to go ahead and do that Boolean one more time. Boolean folder. So you can see now this new piece. Wait, did that happen? Okay, here we go. So you see this new piece right here that had more topology. Now look at how many, look at the difference in triangles. So you can see here that there's a ton of triangles. Here there's less, right? So you've got all these little tiny slivers of triangles, and those are going to cause you a headache. All right. So so when you're doing Booleans, make sure that the topology, meaning the density of polygons, is similar as possible to all the parts you're Booleaning, and that way you get less complex pieces. So now, another thing I should also mention that is that I've found something online that I use a lot, which does that work for me. So here, let's say I've got this Boolean set over here, and I want to Boolean these things. So there is a plugin that I purchased called Perfect Bool, and Perfect Bool is really good for doing Booleans because it gives you something decent for the most part with all these parts. So I'm going to turn all these guys on again so I can see them. So here I've got this part that had that a lot of detail, this one that didn't, and then I've got this cube. And if I launch Perfect Bool, I get an error. Wow, that's not good. All right. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to delete this folder and start a new one here, and I'm just going to try and do it this way. Maybe that's the issue. All right, well, this one gave me a problem too. So what I'm going to do is go back on this piece so it's not dynamic subdived. Right, so now I've got this piece. Push it in like so. I've got this piece. So here are my 3 different pieces. Oh, I think I didn't do something. That's why. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do Perfect Bool here. Right, and then let's try, there's a Perfect Bool Plus. I don't know why both of these are giving me errors. What am I doing wrong? Let me delete these 2 just for kicks. All right, I've just got these 3 pieces like that. I guess if it was perfect, it would have not had this issue. All right, I don't know why I'm having this issue. But basically, the thing that this Perfect Bool does is that it subdivides the objects so they have similar topology. Let me go to the top here, try this again one more time. Let's see, pop up, PM, press, okay. I don't know why it's having this issue with this, so I'm just going to, that's why, all right. I'm going to delete these 2 as well. So now I just have these, like, good, one more try. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, here we go. Okay, so as here, it's subdivided this piece to have more pieces, and it's subdivided, it's going to subdivide the other ones too. Yeah, I don't know. This is weird. I've never had this happen before. So it just basically what it does is it subdivides this piece. So it is kind of this topology. It will do the same thing with this one. And then it will do the same thing with this one so that the kind of the subdivision levels are the same on all the different pieces. And then what you get, am I getting a separate piece? No, I'm not. Okay. I'll try this one more time. All right, so this one is, I keep subdividing it. I don't know why. I think somehow something got corrupted somewhere and it doesn't want to work on these pieces. So I can either start over, but I guess what I'm trying to explain is that what it does is it does subdivision. So here I'm going to do it manually. So I'm going to subdivide this. So you can see here that the subdivisions basically are the same. So you can see here that this is kind of where I'm at with this one. And I'm going to do the same thing to this one. Right, so let's see. This one has 4 subdivision levels. I don't think I need 4. I just need 3. Okay, delete higher. And then this one has 3 subdivision levels. And then the cube, right? So when I look at the cube here, I'm going to subdivide that guy, not with smooth on, a few times more. And then let's see. So when I see these square sizes over here and I look at these square sizes, they should be more or less the same. And now if I do a Boolean, just a straight Boolean, so I just go over here to Boolean and is this not available? Make Boolean mesh, turn this on. Okay, so now I get this. Right, this is kind of what I have, and if I want to make Boolean mesh, I click on that, and now again, it's not going to be in here, but it added that Boolean mesh here. So now you can see here that it's got those small triangles, but they're in a very kind of isolated area over here, right? And so the rest of it is kind of okay, and I can sculpt on this. So for Booleaning things, you want to make sure that your topology of the pieces you're Booleaning are close in size of the kind of the squares, the minimal squares that you have. Hopefully that answers the question. No, Virtue 5. I'm not hearing Discord join and leave sounds over at my end, so I don't know. Maybe. If you have Discord, maybe you need to go and mute that. I think that's kind of what your problem is. All right, delete that. Go back to the Mech. And how are we doing on time? Wow, we're almost out of time. Okay, so basically going to be working on this. I didn't have time to color things, so maybe I'll do that for a few of the pieces here. So I'll do it for the Gatling gun. Let's start out with that. Let me hide all these things. And just bring up the Gatling gun 2. I think that's the one we want. And hide everybody else. And maybe we can do some of that work now. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and sorry about that. I'm going to go ahead and well, I think somehow the chat window got closed. Let me just fix that real quick. Okay. And log in. Yeah, if you guys you're not seeing the chat, my chat kind of window died, so I'm rerunning the chat to see. Wow, something went wrong with that page. Do it over. Today is the day we're going to have 2-3 problems at the same time. Nope. Wow. Yeah, something weird's happening with the chat. I'm sorry, I'm not able to continue the chat. A good thing is that this happened towards the end of the thing, so not as bad. I'm going to try one more time to log in, but sorry I can't hear you guys. and so I can't respond to your questions. But give me one more second. I'm going to try this one more time, and hopefully I can log in. All right, we're trying it one more time here. Always something interesting happening. All right, so yep. Let me try doing this. I'm just going to close the restream window and start it over. All right, view. Let me bring it back up again. Docs. Chat. Let's see if this works. Again, it's that troubleshooting that is kind of important. Looks like it's doing a little bit better than before, so hopefully it'll come back. Nope, it's refusing to do it. All right, one last thing to try, and then I'll just, I think I will assume that it's not something I can do at my end. All right, so last attempt here. Let's see if it logs me in. If it does, it does. If it doesn't, then we just have to, oh, I did get in. All right, so chat is working, but it's not connected to anything. I am still streaming though, right? Yep. Okay, so yeah, the chat, something happened to the restream chat, so I'm just going to give that up. All right, so let me do a couple of things here, and I think I'll call it a night, and then we can continue the rest of it in a couple of weeks. All right, so here I'm going to Gatling Gun 1. And so the thing I was talking about with materials is basically you select a different piece here. So let's say I select this barrel, and I want this barrel to be a certain material. In Keyshot or whatever program. So I'm going to assign it a material. And it doesn't really matter what material you assign it, right? So you basically just go, and here I'm going to choose gold. I'm going to go ahead and turn on mRGB here and then fill object. So now that barrel is going to be this material. And let me switch back to basic material. So you can see it's going to stay this material. And the thing about it is that now that it is this material, when I load it into Keyshot, even if it is as one piece, I can assign a different material to that specific part that has that material applied to it. So let's say I want this part of the gun right here to have that same material. So I just go back again to gold and fill object. And then go back to basic material, and now I can see that this material, this object, and this object are going to have that gold material. Maybe I want that to be on this object as well, so I'll select that. Again, go to the gold material, fill object, and go back to basic material. So now you can see that different parts of this gun are going to have these different materials. So, so that's kind of how I will go by, and let me just do another material too so you kind of get the idea. So let's say this barrel part right here is going to have its own material. So now I go to that, and then I'll go, let's say I'll choose matte cap, I don't know, metal, this one. All right, that's good. And then I'll go ahead and say fill object. So now that basically has that material. I'll pick this piece, fill object, it has that material as well. And now I'll go back to basic material. So everything else basically has the basic material, but this is going to be its own material, and this is going to be its own material. And notice here that there are little details that could be different materials as well. So this one is going to be a different material. I select it, and let's say I choose this type of metal for that, and fill object. So now this piece and these pieces, which seem to be in the same subtool, are going to have that material. And then let's just go back to basic material So you can see here that I've got different materials being added. And again, I'm making a little bit of effort here to have these materials be kind of match each other or whatever, but it doesn't really matter. You can just put like here, I'll do kind of a wrong looking one too. Like this material over here, I don't have to choose a metallic one. I can just choose this red wax or whatever it's called, red clay, sorry, and go back to basic material, and you can see that that's there. Now that's going to be a different material in Keyshot, but here it kind of doesn't look like it works. So again, I just have all these materials to work from. And again, none of these will really matter in the final render in ZBrush, but when I export these to Keyshot, I can export this as one piece, and then I can apply these different materials to these different areas. Okay, so with that, I think this is a good time to stop the stream, and I don't even know if it's continuing, but I can see here that my chat window is up now, but it's not connected to anything. So I think Restream had some sort of a burp, and we'll figure it out, and hopefully this will not be a problem in a couple of weeks. So with that, I want to wish you all a good day or a good night, whatever you're watching this. Also remember that if you do like this and you have questions and or anything you want to talk about, if you like it, please like whatever service you're watching it on. Subscribe to the channel if you want to continue to see more of this kind of stuff. Leave a comment, always appreciated. And if you have questions that you didn't get answered here, you can either leave them in the comments or send me an email, and I will try my best to answer them for you. And if it's something that I need to defer to Pixologic, I would be more than happy to do that as well. All right, so everybody have a good night. And if vaccines are available in your area, make sure to get vaccinated as soon as you can. I got my second shot, and I'm 14 days after that, and I didn't feel a thing. And that was really, it definitely gives me peace of mind, and also makes me part of the solution. So get your vaccine, still wear your mask, play it safe. Hopefully we'll be out of this thing soon. So good night, everybody, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye.